Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Put Me In Coach, I'm Ready to Scale podcast. I am your host, Eugene Terk. On this show, we cut through the noise to bring you practical ideas, real world experiences, and actionable insights from business coaches and growth minded leaders who are in the trenches every day. We aren't just talking about big ideas. We're talking about execution and hopefully helping you master leadership, alignment, accountability, and strategy to successfully scale your business. As a reminder, each and every episode is brought to you by Align, the strategic planning and execution software designed to keep your team focused on what matters most. From KPI dashboards to daily huddles, Align helps you create clarity and drive consistent execution. As a listener of the podcast, you can get 10% off of your new subscription. Just head over to aligntoday.com to sign up for an introductory demo and be sure to use promo code podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. And now let's jump into today's conversation. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Put Me In Coach. I'm Ready to Scale. I am, again, your host, Eugene Terk. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day, wonderful week. And today we have the great pleasure of speaking with Coach Deb Oxman. Deb, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us, Deb. You and I met recently, and so you have a very unique coaching practice. And in terms of the clients that you generally work with, give us just a quick overview of sort of yourself, your coaching practice, and how you came to this particular niche of a coaching frame pathway that you found yourself in.
Sure. So I've been a chef and culinary entrepreneur for the past 24 years. Early on, I realized that I became the bottleneck in my companies very quickly when I started reaching out for business coaches, specifically in the culinary space. I couldn't find any. In fact, some of my mentors or people that I looked up to just in business said, well, we send them to you. And I thought, well, I better do something about this because if I'm looking, so are other people looking. I learned very quickly that I was not that coach that wanted a business around startups. I often tell people you don't want me to coach a startup because I'll go to jail. It does not work for everybody. I know my lane. So my coaching business is for culinary business owners at scale. And recently we have moved into those that serve the culinary industry as well. So think about uh, food packaging manufacturers to even CPAs that specialize in culinary to custom knife companies, those types of companies also. So yes, very unique and at scale.
Awesome. It is, I think you're the first coach, and I've been working with coaches now for many, many years. You're the first coach that I've run across that really has focused specifically on that culinary space. Are there challenges that business owners in the culinary space, uh, are there challenges that they have that are unique to the culinary space world, or is a business owner, and their challenges are many times the same regardless of what industry they're in?
That's a great question. I used to think I only, like my coaches and myself, could only coach in this culinary space because we're so different and so unique. But, when you're kind of sitting around the proverbial water cooler and, start to listen to owners and other businesses, there seems to be the same thing of employees are hard to find, they're hard to keep, to, there's very little operating cost left, to everything has become so expensive, to all of those things. Um, and then I went to, well, there is no difference. And I think really the difference comes in the personalities of what makes up a culinary employee because when you run your numbers from profit and loss to balance sheets to customer acquisition cost to those business things apply, But where I've really found the difference is a culinary employee is a unique individual. They are all artists that chose to be in an industry where the interpretation of somebody's art is literally something that they taste, that they put inside their body, that is subject to the personality, the day, the whatever that that particular customer had that day. And when you take an artist where their art is consumed based upon the personality or the day that your diner had, what happens is that that creates a very unhealthy environment for that particular culinary employee. And so you deal with a lot of emotion, you deal with a lot of hurt feelings. What goes along with that is since they are artists, and everybody knows that in culinary, it is hard to pay somebody that you would pay, let's call it a C-suite executive at a software company, that's willing to take a lower amount for an art that's being judged all the time.
Right.
And then you also have the drug addiction that goes along with it and the other addictive behaviors. And somebody had the bright idea to take people that have been incarcerated and turn them into chefs in an industry that already has issues. So that is what I would tell you. I've seen one of the main issues is just the makeup of a culinary employee and combating that every day and trying to grow a business around that.
Yes, and I certainly I had experience in high school working in kitchens and barbecue
Mm.
restaurants, and the number of characters and the personalities and um, yes, the culinary artists that you run into really is unique and runs the gamut. Um, Deb, I know that one of the big things that you really focus on in your coaching is to really narrow it down is mindset. But I know that you like to make sure that business owners are making decisions about their businesses based on the business that you want, not necessarily the business that you currently have. And I'm just wondering, what does that actually mean in practice?
That's that's actually a really great question too, because this is something that I've had to remind myself as I grew with all my companies, but I remind our coaching clients as well, because every business owner, I don't care if you have a coach, I don't care how many businesses you have, I don't care the size of those businesses. Sometimes we get stuck in the minutia of the mindset around, is this a good decision? Does this match my brand? Do I have the money? Will this work for me? This is a really big step. For example, where this comes into play for me is whenever our business owners are looking for maybe their first, what I call big person space that they're going to, expand and really blow their business out of the water, or they already have a space. They're trying to decide if they want to open location two, and maybe the space is much bigger than they need. Maybe there's location number two and three, but they're just not sure. Even though that, all the processes and everything in place and it's working well. Usually when I ask the question, are you making this decision based upon the business you have now or the one that you want? And usually that's kind of an explosion thing for them. And they're like, I'm playing small. I can't get to my 1 year, my 3 year, my BHAG goal if I don't move into this biggest space, if I don't open this other location. It just makes it very black and white for them.
And why do you think that certain business owners get trapped into making decisions based on their current circumstances rather than sort of their long-term vision?
And that question is based on the number one reason why either business owners fail or they cannot grow, and it's all fear. Fear
Mm.
around, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I don't have enough money? What if this is not the right space? What if I'm not good enough? Maybe this was all luck. It really has to do with a fear-based mindset than it is anything else. And I've been coaching culinary business owners for 10 years. And you know what's so fascinating when it comes down to it? It's really not about the money. If you have to get a loan for 1 point whatever or half a million or 3 point whatever, it usually has nothing to do with that. It's usually around fear of, can I do this?
And so how do you help business owners sort of work through and overcome that fear? Because obviously, I think there's probably lots of times when um, what you've described is the fear of overextending oneself
Mhm.
financially or operationally. Like, can I run two locations? Can I handle taking out a loan for some, huge amount of money? And so how do you help those business owners sort of overcome those fear-based decisions?
This is an honest conversation, so I'll tell you honestly, sometimes I have to send them to therapy. That's just honest.
Yeah.
That's one of my best growth tools in the world because I cannot tell you how many times when I really start to dig in of where's the money mindset coming from, where's the fear coming from. It a lot of times it comes from childhood of I wasn't good enough or I had to be the perfect child and there was a parent or there was a something, and I'm like, you need to fire your mom. She doesn't work here. I said, oh, yes, she does. She works in your head, and I'm not the one equipped to go do that. So, one is therapy, but a lot of times it goes back to you have to decide, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I tell my business owners, you have to decide right now, are you done? They're, what do you mean? I said, are you done? This is as good as it's ever going to get right now unless you choose to do this. So if you're okay with where you are now, be okay. Just be okay with it. And usually, because my business owners, and I think most are very competitive, as soon as I say, okay, well, great, it looks like you're done where you are. Are you good with that? Or, you know, because there's more. And as soon as I talk about the competitive nature, and then also, well, but how are we going to meet? It's black and white. How are we going to meet our 1 to 3 year to 5 year goals if we don't do this? You've already outgrown where you are. Logic will tell us that we can't. What is your choice right now? You have no choice. Lastly, I tell my business owners, listen, every 3 years, you have to what I call kick over the sandbox, light it on fire, and walk away and start it all over again. You have to do it every 3 years. Otherwise, and you have to renew your processes. You possibly have to change your team. You have to buy a bigger space. You have to rebrand. You have to do all of these things. Business becomes stagnant. And usually more than anything, they're scared of the growth, even though they can do it. Sometimes just
I
calling it out.
Yeah, I just saw an interview with an entrepreneur where one of his core values was growing, not growing is dying. So
Mhm.
if you're not growing, if you truly are staying stagnant, that is the same as death in terms
I,
of business.
I tell my business owners businesses exist in two states only. There is no other state. You're either growing or you're dying.
Right.
There is no let it ride. There is no, well, I'm comfortable here. There is none of that. You are either growing and making those decisions and moving forward outside of your comfort zone and being really comfortable with constantly being uncomfortable. Because let's be honest, as a business owner, you're going to spend way more money than you're ever comfortable spending to grow a business. You have to. It's not an option.
Yeah.
So either you're growing or you're dying. Pick a lane.
I know that one of the other sort of mantras or things that you really work on with business owners is talking about designing the life that you want
Mm.
first and then
Mhm.
building a business to support that. And I'm just curious,
Mhm.
why do you think so many founders and business owners tend to reverse that equation?
Because it's logical. Until you really understand and start working in a business and have that business own you, that you realize that if you started a business because you wanted to have a certain life, that you will become so busy building a business that you forget to build a life. You won't set the boundaries in place, you won't set the time for it. And usually I cannot get business owners to hear me on this until they're ready to throw in the towel. and the business is running them, and this is not the life I want. And what I hear often is, if this is success, I don't want it.
Mm.
And then I can get them to hear, can we stop now? What life do you want? Let's design your life. What are your hours that you want to work? How many vacations do you want to take? What hobbies do you want to have? And then from there, we design a business structure that that automatically puts their life first and the business that supports their life. I decided early on when my children were small, when I first started I have a company that's 24 years old. Um, in August. And the first thing that I said was, and not even knowing it was the right thing to do, I'm going to work 9 to 3 during business hours. I mean, during school hours. That's what I was going to do. I run all of my companies between 9 and 3. That is when I work Monday through Thursday. I don't work on Fridays. But one of the best things I ever did was to decide what my business hours are personally, not for my companies. My staff works the hours they're supposed to work for the opening and closing times that it says on the website. I decided early on what my working hours were, and I stick to it. I understand the words coming out of my mouth are sound great, harder in execution. You have to have a lot of boundaries around it.
And so, going back to the previous topic about growth, how do we balance, or how do you think leaders should think differently about growing and not dying in terms of their two paths of business, if the ultimate goal is freedom or flexibility or spending more time with family or working, only 4 days a week?
Tell me that again. Ask that again.
I was going to say, how do we counterbalance growing a business? Because generally the thought is, I've got to work more, I've got to work
Mm,
harder. And if I'm going to grow this business, it's going to take more out of me while also trying to create more flexibility, more freedom, more time with my family, and living the life that I really want to live while also growing my
mm,
business.
the grind.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm really honest with my business owners, and I tell them this. I always say, listen, if you want to grow your business or kind of start this business that will really give you the life that you're looking for, there's some things you have to earn. You earning the quality of life is honestly going to take you about 3 years. I didn't say you should work yourself to death. The grind is not going to bring you more money, but working more than you think that you should, honestly, you don't really get it. You don't really understand this is a viable business till about 3 years. I said, however, keeping that in mind, we planned for that. We planned for, and we block your schedule as long as you pay attention to it. And this is where those business systems come in of, do you have those SOPs in place? Do we know our financial numbers and can make decisions based upon that? We get those systems in place first, not only what it takes to grow a viable business, but also we find out what their boundaries are personally. Again, it goes back to when they want to work and how they want to work. Because let's be honest, entrepreneurs can work 24/7. But it's not until you get on the other side of business that you really realize that does not bring you more money. It does not bring you more clients. It does not bring you more happiness. It is the quality of work that's done using the tools that we know will bring the most amount of return on investment for return on time. Does that make sense?
It does. And
Okay.
so, just to wrap up this conversation, if you're a CEO or business owner
Mhm.
who's listening to this conversation right now and you feel stuck
Mm.
inside the business that you have built, but perhaps you no longer enjoy, or it's not giving you the freedom and flexibility, the success is not what you originally envisioned it. What would you suggest would be some of the first steps that business owner should start to take in order to start changing that trajectory?
When I'm asked this question, there's a movie that my granddaughters always listen to. It's the Frozen movie, and there's a song that's a theme song in this movie called Let It Go.
I think I
Um,
have a daughter. I've heard it once or twice. Yes.
I think we hear it in our sleep for most of us. Um, that is the number one thing that I tell business owners, that if this business is running you, it's actually your fault because you have chosen not to let it go. And what I mean by let it go is somewhere there's a mindset that says, I have to do it all. They won't do it good enough. I can't find the employees anyway. They're going to ruin my business. They're going to make mistakes. That's the number one thing that I hear all the time. The reason the business runs you, if you're a CEO, listen to this, is you're the bottleneck.
Yeah.
That may upset some people, but it is factual. You are the bottleneck. As soon as you learn through either fate or not to let it go and delegate, and I know that there's CEOs out there and the business owners and the founders right now that are going, well, great. If I knew how to do that, I would have already done it. You're right. If you knew how, you would have already. That is the beauty of coaching. But honestly, you take the thing that you hate to do the most, and sometimes simply putting things in AI about the things you hate to do the most in your business will create the most amazing job description known to man that is unique to your business. Go
Yeah.
post it on Indeed and take a leap of faith. Delegating is a true art form, but wow, once you learn it, the sky is the limit. It is your key to freedom. Key
Yeah.
to freedom.
Awesome. Chef Deb, thank you for a
You're
wonderful
welcome.
conversation. We often like to end with a few questions just to learn a little bit more about yourself and what you're recommending to your coaching clients. Is there currently a book that either you are reading or that you are suggesting to business leaders that they should be reading on their sort of, business journey?
It's kind of an oldie but goodie, but The Big Leap has
Okay.
been, I ask my business owners to read that, and it is so apropos to many of the questions that you asked me because it goes into why you make decisions like you do. It goes into mindset. It goes into so many different things about being the bottleneck neck in your company of and this book, I ask my business owners to read it, but also I read it probably once every few years or so because I always gather new things from it. Always.
Awesome. I have actually never heard of that book, and so I will
The Big
certainly
Leap.
check it out. Yeah.
It's so
Um,
cool because you have the right one when you see this goldfish leaping into this really big bowl. It's amazing.
uh, this one's going to be close to your area of expertise, but the
Yeah.
best eating city.
Mm, depends on the year because there's always some that are up and coming. Um, I'm going to tell you that I absolutely love Chicago
Okay.
for the best like variety. Um, True to my heart is always going to be anywhere in Napa, just for the whole food, farm to table ingredients. And honestly, while I don't love Houston itself, like Houston, Texas,
I know.
up and coming. I'm surprised.
I know. I spent a lot of time in Houston, and the food scene there is phenomenal. It really is.
Yes. Yes.
Last question, one that's close
Yes.
to my heart. If I was to ask you to name a musical act or a band, dead or alive, that you have never seen in concert, that you wish you could, who would that be?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, that I've never seen in concert, who would that be? Uh, I would here's why. One of the, and I hope my mom is not listening to this ever, but one of the concerts and that I only snuck out of my house one time in the history of ever. And that's true. I went to go see Kiss. I was not supposed to see that concert, and I was so worried about getting caught, I couldn't even enjoy that concert. I would love to go back and redo that concert all over again as an adult so I can actually enjoy it.
That's great. It's one band I have never seen live, and that would certainly be a great one. That's really sort of the whole visual experience of going to see music. So yes,
Right.
I agree with you there. Deb, always a pleasure speaking with you. For those of
Thank
you
you.
who want to learn more about Deb's coaching in the culinary space, please check out her website at Chef Deb, CHEFDEB.com. And we'll certainly include a link to her website in the podcast notes. And we hope that you check her out and certainly as well as take a look at The Big Leap as her book recommendation. Deb, always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for your time and your wisdom, and hope you have a wonderful day.
You're welcome. Thank you.